My friend, how do you know what is really true? We're constantly getting these opposing viewpoints out there. If you're really reading and researching, you're going to see varying opinions on most things. So, how do we know which one is the truth? How do we investigate that? And how can we ever be sure that we're sure? I feel the minute that we decide that something is 100% true is like literally the minute where we have a new lesson to learn, something deeper to understand that we weren't previously able to perceive. And so, in a way, this quest for truth may never be fully attainable because it's like this journey of this thing that we pass point by point by point. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because over the last year, with COVID, I have been sent a lot of varying viewpoints around COVID, around what it is, around how many people really got it, around the true impact of it, around the vaccine, and all of these conspiracy theories wrapped around all of this. And if you start to look at who are the people giving this information, like there are all these amazing medical doctors and scientists. So why would one be more right than the other? Like, how do we know which one to trust, what thing to believe, right? There's just so much contradicting information. And a lot of us at one point or the other, we're going to move towards one side or the other. And I want to speak to those of us who might have seen these opposing viewpoints in anything in life and aren't sure which way to go to, one side or the other, and what that is about. So this ends up this conversation. It's investigating a different understanding of what truth is. That's what I want to dive into with you. When we look at research, there's a couple things to keep in mind. One is that a lot of times this information comes from logics in the mind, and playing the game of logics means that we can sway logics according to the results that we want. We can sway reasoning according to the results that we want, depending on what we're acknowledging and not acknowledging. And then we can also look at who is funding the research. And is it to their benefit to have the results go to one side or the other? So it's hard sometimes to really feel like research is the answer. And then we have intuition. And you can always come to my meditation programs to help develop your intuition some more, right? But at the end of the day, you're also still going to be left with, well, how do I 100% know, right? How is my intuition always 100% accurate? And how do I 100% trust my intuition? What I'll say to that is that I trust my intuition. And as I mentioned before, it's like as we grow and evolve, a new truth shows up. And there's new information that wasn't even considered before. So whatever we were intuiting before was kind of right for that moment. But then as we grow and evolve, what we need to be in tune to can shift. But really what I want to get into is the essence of why this question comes up of opposing viewpoints. And I believe a big part of that is to create that contrast. And we have to keep in mind is like with the coronavirus, we've had big questions on the table, right? How do I keep myself healthy? Not get this nasty disease? How do I make sure that I'm a good Samaritan and I don't do things that it can impact the lives of other people? How do I know what I can trust? Can I truly trust this a body of information that I have in the past? What a Socratic topic for the day. Yes, Jonathan. And the reason why I'm saying this is because right now there's a lot coming up about the vaccine. And I want to create the space for us to explore how do we deal with opposing viewpoints coming at us. I'm not as concerned in this conversation with choosing which viewpoint to follow. It's kind of like we're given an option A and an option B. And I'm going to say that there may be an option C that we haven't explored and considered yet. And part of the option C, part of what is also happening, like I mentioned, is creating a contrast. It's making us really aware of the difference between two different sides. It's making us aware of different aspects of humanity, of life, of thought, of physical matter, of the depth and complexity of ourselves as being and what exists in this world. From my perspective, that also goes back to a much bigger perspective, is what's the culmination of everything, right? To me, that is God, that is spirit, that is divine. And it is our work in this life to understand all aspects of that. So when opposing viewpoints come up, it makes us look at something more deeply. When we have an emotional response to something, it makes us look at it more deeply. So then what we actually get to work on is our emotional response to what is coming up. And that's, of course, where the work begins with me when people are working with me one-on-one with neuro-linguistic programming. It's understanding where our emotions are in response to what is showing up in our lives and how to heal that. And I love seeing how quickly my clients can go through this process of getting understanding and releasing the pains of the past. So I'm going to encourage you all, while you're in the process of discerning, what is truth and like, should I get the vaccine or not? And what is this really made of? But also to explore what your personal response is to the varying viewpoints, to making this decision. And then go even deeper and just say, what if truth is really about finding a way to put myself in good energy, in energy that feels good, right? That feels solid, that feels like peace, contentment, happiness, calmness, right? Then truth doesn't have to be, obviously you have to decide, what action you're going to take. But start with focusing first on how do I make myself feel good in my energy and find that truth. And then from there, see if it's easier to make, you could say, those outward choices on what actions you take. I hope that was helpful. Feel free to throw some more comments in here as to how you discern what truth is. And those of you who are just, curious, like if you haven't seen that much opposing research and you're curious to know what else should I consider, you can always reach out to me for things like that, because people somehow send me things from all viewpoints. I tend to see the truth also in a lot of varying viewpoints. And maybe that's why people feel comfortable from, always from both sides of the front, you could say, sending me information. So I'm happy to be in that space, in that zone in the middle for you, if that makes sense. And then, of course, if you want support in exploring, like, how do I just release my reaction to these things? Like, I know what I believe. Right? I know what I want to do. And I'm really annoyed that there's even this whole other idea out there. And how do I release my annoyance to that? So that's something that we can also talk about. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you so much for tuning in.